Hi everyone, welcome to Smack Reviews. If you love our honest reviews, smack that subscribe button so you never miss out. I want to begin this video by saying, welcome back Inuyasha fans. We can finally rejoice knowing that Rumiko Takahashi has returned with a brand new series called MAO. Now going into this, I'm not gonna lie, I had lowered my expectations since I wasn't really feeling Yashahime like that. I thought I knew exactly what kind of vibe we were about to get with MAO, but after watching the first episode, this is not what I expected at all. But in a good way. Let's talk about it. So, episode 1 covers the first 2 chapters of the manga, and for the most part, it's essentially a one-to-one adaptation. That's actually a really good sign because it suggests the anime is aiming to stay faithful to the source material. If you're familiar with Inuyasha, you know that wasn't always the case. The anime made a number of changes, whether it was adding anime original characters like Ayame or altering the overall art style and presentation. So seeing MAO stick this closely to the manga right off the bat is definitely something worth noting. We're introduced to our main female protagonist, Nanoka Kiba. At first glance, she seems like a pretty ordinary high school girl, but we quickly learn she lost her parents at a young age in what's described as a freak accident. Since then, she's been living with her grandfather. Years later, she returns to the exact location where that accident happened, an old rundown shopping alley. For some reason, there have been reports of strange, unexplainable noises coming from inside. But once she actually steps into the alley, that's when things take a turn. It feels very reminiscent of Kagome going down the well in Inuyasha because Nanoka suddenly finds herself transported to a different world that exists in the past. And almost immediately, things escalate. Nanoka is suddenly attacked by a monster, and right when things look like they're about to go completely downhill, that's when we're introduced to the main male protagonist, MAO. He steps in, takes the monster down before it can escape, and Nanoka ends up passing out from her injuries. When she wakes up, she's confused, but more importantly, she's completely healed. Naturally, she has a ton of questions, and MAO has questions of his own. He asks her whether she's in Ayakashi, something she has absolutely no understanding of. From there, the encounter is cut short, and Nanoka ends up returning back to her world. And this is where things really stood out to me because unlike Inuyasha, where time continues to move forward in Kagome's world while she's in the past, MAO seems to be doing something completely different here. At least based on episode 1, when Nanoka returns, it feels like no time has passed at all. Her world is essentially frozen while she's in the past. And that's a pretty major difference because it completely changes the rules of how this quote-unquote two worlds concept works compared to Inuyasha. The next day, something strange starts happening to Nanoka. She's suddenly able to run extremely fast, jump onto buildings multiple stories high, and even her teeth begin to sharpen. Confused and looking for answers, she returns to the past to find MAO. And this is where we learn more about him. MAO is an exorcist who deals with Ayakashi, and it's revealed that he's been cursed. At the same time, it becomes clear that Nanoka isn't normal either. The accident she survived as a child wasn't just a coincidence. It's directly tied to these supernatural elements. From there, the episode begins setting up the larger mystery surrounding both Nanoka and MAO, hinting that their connection runs deeper than it first appears. Okay, I also want to quickly mention the opening, Heart Loud. I really liked it. It fits the tone of the series really well, and it's definitely one of those openings that grows on you the more you hear it. When it comes to the direction and visuals, this is actually where MAO really stood out to me. Right away, you could tell this show is going for a much darker and more grounded tone compared to Inuyasha. The color palette is a lot more muted and there's a heavier focus on atmosphere rather than just throwing constant action at you. A lot of the scenes, especially in the alley and in the past, feel eerie and a little unsettling, and I think the direction does a really good job of letting those moments breathe instead instead of rushing through them. Even the way certain shots are framed feels more intentional. There are a lot of close-ups, slower camera movement, and quiet moments that build tension instead of immediately paying things off. And I think that really works well for the kind of story this is trying to tell. As for the character designs, they stay very true to Rumiko Takahashi's style. If you've seen her previous work, it's instantly recognizable, but it also feels a bit more refined here. The animation itself isn't anything crazy, but it's consistent and it gets the job done. Where the show really shines is in the atmosphere and overall presentation rather than flashy movement. So I think the biggest strength of episode 1 is the mystery. The episode doesn't try to explain everything right away. It gives you just enough to stay interested while still leaving a lot of questions unanswered. And for me, that actually made it more engaging. I also liked how grounded everything felt. Even with the supernatural elements, the tone stays pretty serious. And it doesn't rely on constant action to keep your attention. And of course, the fact that it stays so close to the manga is a big plus. It makes the story feel more focused, and it shows that the anime knows exactly what it's trying to do from the start. As for what didn't work, there are a couple things that might not click for everyone, is that the pacing is definitely slower, especially for a first episode. If you're going into MAO expecting something fast-paced or action-heavy, this might feel a little underwhelming. And compared to something like Inuyasha, the first episode doesn't have that same immediate hook or energy. It's more focused on setting things up rather than grabbing you with big moments right away. But personally, I think that slower approach works in its favor, especially if the payoff is worth it later on in the episodes. Overall, the first episode of MAO is a really strong start. It does a great job setting up the world, introducing the characters, and building a mystery that actually makes you want to keep watching. This might not be as fast-paced or immediately gripping as something like Inuyasha, but I think that slower, more atmospheric approach is exactly what makes it stand out. So far, I'm definitely interested in seeing where this goes, and I will keep watching. I'm giving episode 1 of MAO an 8 out of 10, but let me know what you guys think. Do you like the first episode, or were you expecting something different? What did you think of this opening? Let me know down below. Make sure to like, share, comment, and please subscribe. Bye!